Parents of children with epilepsy beg Nebraska lawmakers for help.
Nebraska is one of 3 states with nothing on the books for medical marijuana. Year after year, lawmakers hear the pleas and reject the bill.
Brian Master reports on why some supporters believe this year will be different.
Supporters of the medical marijuana legislation tell me this is the narrowest and most conservative they brought forth to the state capitol, and it only includes a handful of medical conditions.
Senator Anna Wishart of Lincoln has put forth LB 588.
The Federal Drug Enforcement Agency confirms, I quote, no deaths from overdose of marijuana have ever been reported.
Besides the 2 ballot measures collecting nearly 400,000 signatures and a new bill introduced every session, Nebraska remains one of 3 states with nothing on the books about medical cannabis.
I sit before you, tired and weary from this fight, and I beg you to look upon the suffering people of this state.
Parent after parent pleaded with lawmakers in the Judiciary Committee to know the story of how prescribed pills don't work for the countless seizures in their epileptic children.
10 years of the same redundant arguments and excuses. It's a gateway drug. It's not FDA approved. There aren't enough studies. It's a slippery slope. What about our youth? It will get into the hands of the abuser. It's federally illegal. You should try Epidiolex. Our family finds all of these excuses to be nothing short of insulting.
That without medical cannabis, their last option, brain surgery.
This state is taking my son's life. Had he been born in any other state, he would have access to a life-saving medicine.
The new Attorney General and former Speaker of the legislature spoke first in opposition.
Congress has said that marijuana, whether we like it or not, marijuana is a Schedule I drug. The Department of Justice should have enforced its law rather than creating what is now a patchwork, a regulatory patchwork that allows various states to act in conflict with federal law.
Supporters of medical marijuana left with a final message for lawmakers.
My home is run by the electric devil that we call epilepsy, and it has altered my family's life forever.
They're not giving up. On your side in Lincoln, Brian Mastery, 6 News.
Supporters of medical marijuana have vowed to move forward with another petition drive if lawmakers don't act, saying the next version will look more like what Colorado